Hey there, Bear Club! At the Mama Bear Initiative, we explore how to protect ourselves so we can protect our cubs, the people who depend on us. Join us and get the confidence you need to stay safe, make good choices, and protect yourself and those you care about. Let's go!
Hello, and welcome back to this podcast episode. I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Rochelle Knapp.
We'd like to thank you for joining us on this episode where we're picking up where we left off on the other part on how to be brave. So we're going to be talking about the third section of our notes, the steps to becoming brave, and what that looks like. So I'd like to put this all in a little bit of context, at least this part of it, because talking about being brave is all well and good, but we're self-defense oriented.
Yes.
So when we're talking about bravery, we're aiming towards taking an action in a self-defense context. Now, of course, this is all applicable in other areas of your life. Maybe you're in a relationship and you need to speak up or something. You can certainly take everything we're saying and apply it to other situations. But since we're self-defense oriented,
Yes.
we want to make sure that you understand that the purpose of this conversation is to apply it in a self-defense situation where you're facing some sort of danger and you need to do something that's, by this definition, brave.
Yes.
To escape your situation,
Right.
come out of it relatively unharmed, still alive, and able to do what you need to do to get justice.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've gotten that far,
We've laid the groundwork. Let's see what we can build.
let's talk about steps to becoming brave. So we were talking in the last episode about fear and how it's like a monster. Like
Yeah.
your brain is wired to create scenarios where danger is lurking around every corner in your mind if you're thinking about doing one thing or another.
Yep.
And causing you to make a decision to do something else. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, basically, when we talk about it being a monster, I picture it like holding us down.
Right. So in the most basic sense, the anxiety and fear we feel, let's say you're living in the wild, you encounter a tiger. You've never seen a tiger before in your entire life.
Yeah.
The tiger maybe got very close to you and swiped at you. You managed to get away,
Right.
but you got injured. Let's say
Yes.
you got cut
Yeah.
Right.
by the claws. You're going to have anxiety about seeing a tiger.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you think about like if you just saw him for the first time, you might think, oh, look at this big, beautiful kitty. Hi. And you're fearless because you're ignorant. And then you have an experience that sets your mind into very much a fear, what can become a fear spiral.
Right, but what I'm trying to drive at here is that the anxiety in that context is a good thing
Right.
because that will cause you to take actions that will avoid where that tiger was. So in the most basic context, it's a good thing. Unfortunately, we have big imaginations.
Yes, we do.
So we can take something like that way too far.
Yes.
Like we could think if we left that area and went to a city, we might encounter a tiger.
Right.
Yeah. Even though it's, highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Chances are, walking down the streets of Philly.
That might cause you to always stay indoors.
Yes.
Right.
It might go way too far.
Right. And so the kind of fear and anxiety we're talking about is that secondary kind. The primary kind is a good thing. The secondary kind, not so good.
Yeah.
And so we have to do something about that.
Right, because it's strayed away from being reality-based, and now it's based on some weird scenarios and gone out of what can be a helpful form of fear, actually.
Yes.
Right. And so we have to be willing to slay the fear monster
Right.
that's coming at us like that tiger.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's basically the opposite of what we said in the previous issue or the previous episode where we talked about following fear. Now we're slaying it.
I was thinking about something like evidence and experience based on making a decision about anxiety
Mm-hmm.
based on that. Like, okay, you had an experience with a tiger, but where you live, there aren't any tigers. So you're not going to be attacked by a tiger again, unless maybe you go back to where you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to people about evidence-based anxiety, I talk to people about their anxiety based on evidence,
Mhm.
why it's unnecessary.
Right.
But they still don't listen to me. But I try to point out to them,
You're
not-
like, no one will listen to me. Dang it.
you're not going to get in any trouble. Nothing's going to happen to you. It's the same thing every day. They don't, because the anxiety is so huge in their mind, as funny as it is,
Yeah.
they just don't get it. Like it's almost like they're choosing the anxiety.
Well, it's kind of like they're seeing it as, you picture, okay, a fear monster. Picture it as a dragon. A dragon can be huge, fearsome, fire breathing. And if you're not prepared to deal with it, you might look at it and go, oh my gosh. Or conversely, the dragon itself might be really tiny and you've created this huge
Right.
thing that's not even true.
Which is, I don't want to assume things, but based on what I've seen, I think that's what happens. The anxiety becomes much bigger and creates this unrealistic idea that there's some terrible consequence
Right.
that's going to happen, which never does.
Or rarely does. Like, what are the chances?
Right.
And, to take the time to go, okay, what's really going on here? Can I do something about it? Do I need to ask for help?
Right.
Right.
So that I can, especially if it's something that I can't just make go away.
Right.
I have to overcome it somehow.
Right.
Because freezing is not an option, especially in a self-defense situation where I'm protecting my own life or the people around me. I have to do something. So I have to be grounded in reality, see it for what it is, and find a way to overcome it.
Right. And I think when we're talking about bravery, there is definitely anxiety based not in reality.
Right.
But there's also fear based in reality.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
this will happen if you take this action.
Right.
Like we were training today in knife defense, and one of the students made a comment about reality is if you are trying to deal somebody who has a knife, you're going to get cut.
Mhm.
Yes.
You might get stabbed,
And that's a really scary thought.
right? But standing there and letting them do that to you,
Right.
right, is not your best option, which means you have to take some kind of an action, even if it results in
Injury.
injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we set aside the fear and move into action?
Yeah.
Which is what we're going to be talking about today,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
So, we have to understand that we have fear monsters we have to deal with in order to
Yeah.
get past that into action.
Yeah. So accepting reality as it is, not as I wish it was.
Right. Right. And some of it is based on your values and your character.
Right.
Like if you value integrity and honesty and courage, then you're going to look past the fear or set it aside or
Mhm.
move past it in some way that will result in some sort of an action.
Yes.
Yeah. So even taking some time to figure out what's important to me
Mhm.
and what do I value when you're not in a situation,
Mhm.
and really taking that time to think it through
Mhm.
so that you have that groundwork laid. So you can be like, well, because of this, I need to take action and I need to do it this way.
Right. Right. I've not always been brave.
No.
I've had so many examples in my life of times where I've gotten into situations where I lied or did something that was contrary to good values.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thinking I was saving myself, but I was creating more trouble for myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because not only is the thing happening, but now I also have to deal with whatever I was doing that was based in cowardice
right.
to, quote, protect myself, which really wasn't protecting me from anything.
Right. And so what you have then is you've compounded it because you've gone against your own values.
Right.
So now it goes back to what we talked about in the previous episode about I have to live with myself. When everything's quiet, the lights are off, the distractions are gone.
Mm-hmm.
I know I did that thing. I know that I should have done this, but I did this instead. And
Right.
who wants to have to live with that?
Right. And it's a matter of personal integrity. Like,
Yeah.
how much do you value your values and
Right.
good character?
Yeah.
That has to be installed in order for you to get to a point of bravery.
Yeah. Because
Right.
having values is good, but if you don't use them, then it's just futile. There's no point
Right. Right.
because you're not helping anybody.
And you're certainly not helping yourself.
Right.
No.
So, like Evelyn mentioned, spending time examining what your values are and what you would do if you were faced with something based on your character and your personal values
Yes.
is a good exercise in getting to bravery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing when it's really, really hard and scary.
Yeah. And being able to overcome. Maybe you have an initial freeze response,
Mhm.
but I need to act. It's like if you see something happening, it's
Mhm.
happening right in front of you. That man's attacking that woman. You're not watching it on TV. It's scary. There's that part of your mind that goes, wait, how can this be real? Okay, there's
Right.
a moment for that. But then even if you feel afraid, it's I need to do something here.
It seems to
Call
have gotten
911, do something.
seems to have gotten worse with people just ignoring or walking by and not even acknowledging something happening like that. I've noticed
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just gotten so much worse. Like they don't want to get involved at all, so they just let it happen. And I don't know how you can live with yourself just knowing someone's being hurt and you see it and you hear it and you don't stop. And like you said, at the very least, call the police or something.
Do something.
Yeah. I think Jackie mentioned in our interview with her something to the effect of that is a lot of times it's just not computing that
Mhm.
something is happening. Like, I
Right.
can't believe what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did talk about that. And there is that moment of unreality because it goes against the normal things. And certainly it's not something we expect to happen, even though maybe we should to a certain extent. And it does make it difficult. It can increase that time of between freezing and, I need to do something,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there again, having a plan in advance also helps. But also, because I am who I am, I will call the cops. I'm not a coward. I'm not going to wait for someone else to do something. I'm not going to justify my own self-protection,
Right.
so-called self-protection.
Yeah. So another thing that I think is important is focusing on the greater vision of something. So
Yes.
in a self-defense context, the greater vision is your safety.
Right.
Yeah. I think being able to zoom out and get away from our feelings and just go, all right, what would happen if I took action?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And realize it's worth it. Even if in the short term, it might be very painful, it might be scary, you might feel very exposed. You might even be putting yourself in danger for the sake of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But, excuse me, the greater vision is the good that'll come.
Yes.
And being able to, there again, we're going back to this, but when the lights are out, no one is talking, and all you have are your own thoughts, you can say, I did the right thing.
Yes.
I did the best I could.
I did the best I could.
I really like the concept in movies when when it seems hopeless, and then there's like this one character that's like, yeah, it's hopeless, but we're going to try anyway. I always really like that concept because to me, that's kind of a definition of bravery.
Mm-hmm.
It seems remote that it seems like we're not going to win, but let's at least try. We're going to go down, try. We're going to die
Yeah.
fighting.
Right.
And that is like no holds barred. I don't care what happens. I'm going to try anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's why movies like that kind of theme really resonates, because you see somebody doing what you ultimately really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us, our character is such that we really do want to do the right thing,
Yeah.
but we let things stop us. But when we see somebody, even a fictional character, overcome that fear and find that strength and courage to do the right thing, I think it can stir that up within us, and then we can really make that feeling grow inside of us, that,
Yeah.
so it can spur us on.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is, I forget which movie it was, but the Marvel movie where they're fighting Thanos to stop him from snapping his fingers.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's like basically no hope left.
Yeah.
Infinity War. Yeah.
And Infinity War. And there's like basically no hope to win,
Right.
but they were doing their darndest to beat him or stop him anyway.
Right.
And people died, and I think they beat him at one point, and Iron Man died, which I hate because Iron Man is my favorite character.
Jeez.
That was
Go
in the
someone else.
that was an Endgame.
But watching it, I felt this feeling inside of me of bravery
Yes.
Mhm.
that inspired me
Mhm.
to, look to do the things that I'm scared of.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been through, I don't know, seems like 13 or 14 martial arts tests by now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to like literally figure it out. But every single time it was getting close to test, my anxiety would rev up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the desire to just chicken out
Yep.
Right.
came up again and again and again. And, I had enough of a value of like doing what I said I'd do. And I
Yes.
gave my word that I would do this test. And as long as it was within my power to show up and do it, I was going to do it. Even if I thought I was going to fail,
Yeah.
I said I would do it. So the feelings of integrity and honesty were the two, and the accountability of having given my word were the things that got me through the door,
Right.
Yeah.
and got me to stand in front of my sensei and test for
Mm-hmm.
whatever I was testing for that time. And
Yeah.
I don't think that feeling is ever going to go away.
Yeah.
Probably not
It
entirely.
seems like no matter what, that there's that fear. It's
Right.
always there.
It does help me. I think this would be the one time that a worst case scenario is a good idea, at least to think about it, because it does help me to think about what's the worst thing that could happen in like a testing situation. Well, the worst thing is I would fail,
Yeah.
but it's at the end of the world,
You're not going to die.
right?
No
It's
one's
just-
going to hate you forever.
You just have to go back and try again,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
hard, but like you at least aren't gonna. It's not gonna hurt you in the long run to try again. You did what you need.
Yeah.
You did the best you could. Something went wrong and you failed. And it's hard to take that, but it's not impossible to overcome and try again.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful to realize that we all do this sort of thing. We all struggle. We all fail. I remember one time my sensei just out of the blue said, "Evelyn, you're testing tonight." Now, I knew that he wanted me to test sometime in the near future. Like, he was like within the next few weeks. Well, he sprang that on me. We were in the park, and I was so scared, and I was doing it anyway, but I was messing up all over the place. I was forgetting what to do. Asking Sensei, would you please show me how to do this and all this? And needless to say, I did not pass that test. And I had that moment of, will I go back and try again? Like, I had that moment where I just want to quit. I can't do this. But then I thought about, I don't want to lose. I don't want to stop going to class. I don't want to lose the training that I have. I don't want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was determined to do well in that test. And I mean, I'm so scared of failing again. And I think that can stop so many of us. But I started to open my book and I started finding time, making time, doing it in the woods, doing it at home, Mom, could I try this technique on you? You know,
You poor 70-something-year-old mom.
she was so sweet to let me give it a go, and more so than my teenage son. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I was able to test then, and I actually did really well, but I don't know that I would have done as well if I hadn't failed so spectacularly that one night.
Yeah. You know, we're talking about things in the context of like testing or whatever, but if you're in a self-defense scenario, and you get yourself involved in something, there are going to be consequences for you.
Yes, no matter what.
Yeah.
There's going to be pain for you. There might be legal stuff you have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, there might be, I don't know, there could be any number of things that could happen. And you may be able to spend time thinking through how things might go if you get involved in certain things. But you have to be willing to accept that those things can happen
Yes.
Yes.
in order to do the right thing.
And I think the idea of it may seem that you failed. I tried to help her, but she's still, fill in the blank. But at least I tried,
Mm-hmm.
So it may seem like a failure in the moment, but at least you tried. You did something,
Right.
even if
Yeah.
it didn't turn out the way anybody would have wanted it to.
Yeah.
Right. You know, bravery can also involve looking at how things have gone in the past. Like if you've done things that were brave in the past, then you may say to yourself, I don't know if I want to put myself out there again.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
was hard.
and right, because you've already you've already had the consequences to something.
Mm-hmm.
It may deter you.
Yeah.
But should that be a reason to not do the right thing again?
Yeah, there it is. It's circling back around to, but I do the right thing, even though it's hard.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, just to sort of catch up where we're at, we're talking about the steps to becoming brave. So, one of the first things we feel like we need to do is overcoming whatever fears involved.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need to evaluate our values and our character and be willing to have some personal integrity about what we believe in and take action based on that.
Yeah.
We also need to accept the consequences of doing the right thing and looking, at past things that have happened and deciding, there are times when not doing something is right,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? But why are you not doing that thing?
Yeah.
Right.
That has to be considered. If it's because you want to avoid pain and danger, that might not be the right reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Ultimately, there is a greater vision to why you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Like earlier in the other episode, we were talking about knowing that there's a predator free and involved in martial arts training, preying on or possibly preying on children, and you know it and you do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? That puts you into a category you don't want to be in. So, having some personal integrity about that and some willingness to accept the consequences of doing the right thing,
Right.
which could be ridicule, because I've seen the Facebook arguments about a specific person. Some were supporting him and some were definitely not.
Right.
And I don't think there should be any question about it personally.
Yeah.
I don't know where the people who are supporting this person are coming from, to be honest with you. But, if it were me, I would definitely be like, oh no, that person's not going to be involved and should not be
Right.
anywhere near any
Right.
children.
Any
Yeah.
kids,
Well, our own sense of self-protection needs to be superseded by I need to do what's right, the children, for example, they're worth protecting. The integrity of the place, whether it's your home or your neighborhood, the integrity of this place needs to be protected. I need to do what's right and stop what's going on, even if I end up getting hurt. I mean, there are plenty of examples where someone has literally laid down their lives. I mean, talk about doing what's right regardless. Now, hopefully none of us will face that, but there's also a certain amount of respect for somebody who takes their integrity all the way to I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Right. Rochelle, do you have any examples of, going from having a lot of fear of something and moving into bravery about it?
Yeah. When I was starting out in this martial art we take now, felt I was being called to it, but I was terrified of pretty much everything we were doing.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of room for like emotions and dealing with pain. But eventually, for at least the first 2.5 years, I was struggling through that, and I wasn't really progressing as quickly as I would have liked to, and I wasn't really trying very hard either.
Mm-hmm.
And every class was just full of fear, and I was full of anxiety, but I kept trying, I kept going, and then finally something changed and shifted in my perception of what we were doing, and I started to really enjoy it. And then there was a day in March where there was a seminar, and we were there on the last day, and I was really tired. It had been a really hard week at work. I was just really exhausted, but I'm like, I'm just going to give this everything I have. I'm not going to hold back this time.
Yeah.
And we were doing some really hard, intense punching and kicking and all kinds of stuff. And I went for it.
Yes, you did.
And it changed everything. That something clicked that day. There was a switch in my head that just went like, this is actually fun. I actually love this.
Wow.
And it wasn't like I overcame it. It took me a long time. And I still have moments of anxiety, for sure. When I don't understand something or something's happening really fast. But that feeling of like, I actually love this comes through.
Yes.
And that's what overcame the fear and the anxiety, was seeing it from the side of like, this is actually fun and it's not scary.
Yeah, because you pushed yourself to get there. And for those of us who watched her continue to show up for class, you could tell she was really struggling. And there were times when, it was clear that it was, I wouldn't say it went all the way to like she'd rather be anywhere but there, but you could just see the struggle.
That was actually
but
true.
Also, that day, now I had the privilege of working with her, and I saw firsthand the change that came over her. And I think it's a good idea to think about the impact we can have on others for good when we overcome. People are watching.
And actually, there was a time at Jose Sensei's when you said to me that it was like you finally felt like you were working with a peer.
Yes.
And that to me was very significant, because I was always feeling frustrated by my lack of ability to be a good okay for people. And that was like a big healing moment for me and my anxiety in this area.
And it was so good for all of us, really, then to be able to, when we all benefited from it, that was a side benefit that I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yeah. So to wrap up what we're saying here, ultimately being brave is just doing what you know is right despite your fears.
Yeah. Just do it.
Just do it. Deal with whatever comes after, because ultimately doing the right thing, it matters more really than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah. I once heard it said, do the right thing and let the consequences take care of themselves.
Yep.
So I'd like to thank you for joining us on this podcast episode. We hope that you learned something and that you're growing in your understanding. And, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone.
Yes, please.
Yeah, definitely.
And let us know any insights you may have had as you've been listening to it. Maybe something came up in your mind. Maybe there's your own story that you could share that could really encourage the rest of us. We'd love it if you'd share.
Yeah. So, we'd like to get our voice out there. We're putting out reels on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube.
Yeah.
When we're taking clips from our podcast episodes and we're creating reels about self-defense topics. If you come across those, share those too.
Yes.
Yes, please.
If you'd like to support us, if you go to our website, which is listed in the description, you can find a link to, send us a few bucks, like a cup of coffee. Feel free to support what we're doing. So anyway, I hope you have a good day. I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Rochelle Knapp.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Bear Club.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for joining us as we discussed such an important topic. We hope you got some food for thought and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. See you later, Bear Club.
Remember to join the Bear Club on our Patreon page for exclusive content. The link is in the description. You can find our podcast on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.